think that if we fall in love with Jesus, really fall in love with him, the worst of enemies can't hurt us. I've seen people have testimonies where somebody killed their child and they prayed for that person's soul. That's where we have to be. That's where we have to be. And I want to be that person, because you reap what you sow. God is a God of his word. You can't deny that. I want to reap benefits. So he had told me to stand. He told me to fall in love with Jesus. And then he told me to get ready for a blessing. Wow.
The death of a woman at a jail in Amador County while on a visit is now being investigated as a homicide. It happened last Wednesday at Mule Creek State Prison when 62-year-old Stephanie Diane Brinson was visiting her husband. He's an inmate there. The State Department of Corrections says the inmate used the family visit phone to tell officers his wife had passed out during her visit. But the cause of her death is allegedly to have been caused by strangulation. Amador County and the state prison is now handling the investigation.
Stephanie Dowell was 62 years old, beautiful, energetic, athletic, and a proud mother and grandmother. By all accounts, she had lived a life full of love, success, and strength. But in the final chapter of her story, Stephanie made a decision that was not just bizarre, but downright dangerous. After striking up a conversation with a man online, 54-year-old David Brinson, she somehow convinced herself that a convicted quadruple murderer serving 4 life sentences plus 20 years was boyfriend material. Let's be honest, David wasn't just waving red flags, he was drowning in them. He murdered 4 men in one night back in 1994, showed zero remorse, and had no realistic chance of release. But against all logic, all reason, and all cries from her family, Stephanie didn't just fall for him, she married him. Yup, she became Mrs. Brinson, prison walls and all, as if love letters and state-issued jumpsuits were the new fairy tale. Stephanie had a slew of accomplishments, the kind most women would be proud of. She raised a family, stayed active, and built a full life. But now, none of that will make headlines, because the world won't remember her as the loving mom, the dedicated grandmother, or the vibrant woman she was. She'll be remembered as the lonely older woman killed by her prison bae during a conjugal visit. A tragic ending to a story that should have never had a second act. Welcome to the American Crime Femicide channel. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future uploads. Stephanie, affectionately called Stevi-D by family and friends, was a woman of many hats, and she wore them well. A graduate of the University of Southern California with a degree in special education, she held positions ranging from law firm office manager to dental practice manager, to Mary Kay director, to bookkeeper, to hairstylist. But it was hairstyling, her true passion, that she turned into her legacy. Her salon, Hair Elite, located on Crenshaw, wasn't just a business, it was a sanctuary. Known for its Brazilian blowouts, good vibes, and staff that made you feel like family, Hair Elite became a hub for beauty, laughter, and empowerment.
Hair Elite, the place to be.
When Stevie wasn't working, she was out living, sports games, events, family gatherings, you name it. She was a social butterfly with a full calendar and an even fuller heart, especially when it came to her kids and grandkids. But behind the fabulous hair and warm hugs, there was a sadness she rarely showed. By 2017, now in her mid-50s, she posted on Facebook, opening up about years of heartbreak.
I much like to do videos because I don't like the way I look in pictures. But this morning after my run, or during my run, I was talking to God and just saying how much pain I'm always feeling. And why do I have to go through so much? I realized, I'm a pretty happy person. I got a lot of great things going. But I suffer a lot of heartaches. And I feel like maybe somebody else can attest that you might be a very giving person, and a lot of times you do a lot of wonderful things. But I've been praying for like 45, 50 days now, the same thing. And God told me that, my heart needs to be even softer. And I was like, oh my God, I've suffered hundreds of thousands of dollars in loss because my heart being soft, people walking over me doing things. What could you possibly be talking about? And I'm like, but there is something I harbor deep in my heart, kind of a little hatred for someone. And I've been praying and asking God, please take this away. Don't let me feel like this. And he said, I'm a God of my word, Stevie. He said, I truly love you, and I know your heart and that you love people. He said, but you have somebody that you hate, and that's my child. And I was like, God, but the wrong that was done. And he said, well, greater wrong had he done to my son. He said, but he still loved you enough to save your soul. And I said, I understand, God, but I'm not him. I'm not Jesus. What do you want me to do? How can I get rid of this? And he said, you need to fall in love with Jesus. And I said, I love the Lord. He said, no, fall in love with Jesus. If you fall in love with Jesus, nothing can really hurt you like that. Nothing. I have doubts if I'm going to post this because I look so bad. But if there's somebody out there and you've done a lot and you love people, you do, search your heart. Ask God to help you heal from whatever that is that's hurting you, because you have to love everybody. You have to truly love. And I think that if we fall in love with Jesus, really fall in love with him, the worst of enemies can't hurt us. I've seen people have testimonies where somebody killed their child and they prayed for that person's soul. That's where we have to be. That's where we have to be. And I want to be that person, because you reap what you sow. God is a God of his word. You can't deny that. I want to reap benefits. So he had told me to stand. He told me to fall in love with Jesus. And then he told me to get ready for a blessing. Wow.
This shocked people. How could someone who gave so much be quietly carrying so much pain? And then came David, a man whose resume included 4 murders, 4 life sentences, and 0 possibility of parole. Somehow, Stevie went from styling blowouts to falling headfirst into a prison romance with a man locked up for execution-style killings during a robbery in 1994. Forget red flags, David came wrapped in crime scene tape. But she believed the lies, the charm, through We Read the Bible Together bedtime stories. And in one of the most bewildering plot twists imaginable, she married him, not for love, allegedly, but for conjugal visits, because nothing says forever like locking in quality alone time with a convicted killer. Stevie got fit and glowed up for her prison bae.
Hey, it's me, Stevie, just chilling in my truck for a minute while my client is drying. I'm sharing this because I'm excited about my herbal life, my changes in life. I feel so good. I feel so healthy. And I've lost, a lot of weight, but I feel incredible. And so I just thought I'd share this with you. If you don't know what you'd like to do to take care of yourself, my blood pressure is great. I have absolutely no medications to take. Cholesterol all the way down. I'm just excited about my health. I feel so much more vibrant and alive. I look forward to getting up every day, 4 a.m. Life is good.
Her Facebook became flirtier, more playful. Her prison romance gave her a spark. Meanwhile, those around her watched in disbelief. They begged her to reconsider. But let's be real, 62-year-olds don't take advice. They give it. She told everyone to mind their business and carried on living out this warped fairy tale with a man who'd taken 4 lives and now, tragically, would take a 5th. On November 13, 2024, during one of their romantic prison sleepovers, Stevie was found unresponsive. Brinson calmly used the unit phone to call officers and report that his wife had passed out. Despite emergency efforts, Stevie died an hour later. But the horror didn't fully hit until 4 months later, when her family was informed her death wasn't natural, it was homicide by strangulation. Her killer? The man she married. The man serving 4 life sentences. The man nobody should have ever trusted with a toothbrush, let alone 30 hours of private time with a woman.
We spoke with the victim's family, and they're demanding answers. They want to know why an inmate with such a violent history like this was allowed to have unsupervised visits in the first place.
The most giving, kind-hearted person.
62-year-old Stephanie Dowell was always trying to help others, her mother, Ovita Wilson, says.
I would often tell my sweetheart, you can't save the world.
Dowell was a mother herself to 2 sons, grandmother to 6. She was a hairstylist and a small business owner in the Los Angeles area, known to her family as Stevie. We spoke to them on Zoom.
Stevie was literally the glue that held the family together,
making her loss all the more difficult.
We were just devastated.
Dowell died during an overnight visit with an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione just before 3 a.m. last November. Now, 4 months later, the Amador County coroner confirmed her family's fears, finding the death was a homicide. The coroner says she was strangled.
How could they just, let this happen and just don't get it?
Armand Torres says the prison should be held accountable. He says his mom was visiting her husband, David Brinson, there.
They would read the Bible together. He was in school in there because she was pushing him to try to be this better person.
But Brinson is serving 4 consecutive life terms with a 20-year determinate sentence on top of that, without the possibility of parole, all after his 1993 conviction of 4 murders.
My mom was just left alone, and she, called for help, I'm sure, and there's nothing she could do.
Officials say the criminal investigation is still underway, so as of now, no one's been charged with Dowell's murder. But it happened during a family visit, which the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation website describes as a visit in private apartment-like facilities on prison grounds that can last approximately 30 to 40 hours. It was just after 2 a.m. on November 13th when CDCR says Brinson used the phone in that apartment-like facility to tell officers his wife had passed out.
Given the history that this guy has already, we kind of just, wanted to know how is it even, possible for them to be unsupervised.
The CDCR website shows inmates blocked from those privileges are limited to those on death row, those convicted of sex offenses, those going through the reception process upon arrival to a prison, or anyone under disciplinary restrictions. There's no mention of multiple murder convictions.
Do you think that policy should change moving forward?
It has to. There has to be something has to be done because it's not fair.
CDCR says inmates have to meet strict criteria for these family visits, like sustained good behavior, for example. And they say the visits are meant to support family connection and rehabilitation. And Dowell's family did say that she had visited Brinson several times before this, and those visits seem to have gone well. So they say at the time they didn't really think much of it, like they now believe they probably should have. Back to you.
And our investigative team also looked into what, if any, security measures are in place during those prison visits. The CDCR operations manual shows that inmates have to present themselves for account at least 4 times within a 24-hour period, and the watch commander can also order unscheduled inspections. But otherwise, the manual explains every effort is made to ensure the inmate's privacy.
The family is furious, and rightfully so. Why are prisoners with body counts getting conjugal visits? Why was there no supervision? Why did a woman get murdered on state property and it took 4 months to admit it? Of course, they want charges, but let's be honest, what more can you do to a man already serving eternity plus interest? Charge him again just so taxpayers can sponsor another trial? And yet, as hard as it is to say, Stevie made this choice. A smart, educated, accomplished Black woman with a college degree, thriving business, and a family that adored her, chose to marry a mass murderer. Brinson had nothing to offer but conversation and conjugal rights. And in the end, he gave her death. According to her GoFundMe, Stevie was the primary provider for her elderly parents, 2 sons, and 8 grandchildren. She was everything to everyone. But when she finally did something for herself, something reckless, something dangerously romanticized, she paid for it with her life. As the family prepares to give her the beautiful send-off she deserves, please keep them in your thoughts. But when we remember Stevie, don't let her final decision overshadow her decades of love, service, and community care. Remember the woman who employed others, uplifted her people, raised a family, and gave tirelessly. May Stephanie Dowell rest in peace, and may her story serve as a warning that some red flags aren't just red, they're soaked in blood.